What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Living Mad channel, where I talk to you about how I'm living my American dream. So today I want to talk to you about how to know or how to decide when it's time to make a career change. This is a very pressing, near and dear to my heart topic right now because I'm at a point in my career where I'm having to make this decision. Well, really, it's come throughout my career, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But right now, the pressure feels a little bit greater to make that decision. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is. So a couple things. Before I get into it, I want to give you some context of how I ended up in my career and kind of what's kept me in it for this long. So I'm an active duty Marine Corps officer, coming up on 22 years in March. This is something that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. The earliest memory I have of wanting to be a Marine was in middle school. Our art teacher gave us a project, little piece of aluminum foil. We had to draw whatever we wanted on it, and it would show up on the other side. I still have this piece of artwork. It's basically an eagle, globe, and anchor, the symbol of the Marine Corps, and below it said soon to be the #1 fighter pilot in the Marine Corps. So I've known since I was a little kid that the Marine Corps was the path for me. Fast forward to after high school, I joined the Marine Corps, and I knew that I wanted to be an officer, but I didn't go straight to college. That's a story for another time, but long story short, I was not ready to go to college right after high school. So I joined the Marine Corps as enlisted, still knowing that I wanted to become an officer. So as soon as I went through all the initial training, made it to my first base, I started college classes. However, even at that point, although I knew I wanted to be a Marine officer, I wanted to fly, I wanted all these things, I wasn't 100% sure that this would be the career path for me. So what I did is I started college classes, A, because I needed a degree to become an officer, but B, the degree that I chose was criminal justice. Because in my mind, I thought, okay, if I don't make the military career, I want to get out and become an agent for one of the three-letter agencies. In my head, I was thinking CIA, FBI. My number one idea was DEA. I kept thinking, hey, I'm from Colombia, I have family in Colombia. Who better to be an undercover agent for a DEA than me? So that's what I was thinking at the time. So I chose criminal justice. Kept going through school. Fast forward a few more years later, I became a drone stutter. While I was a drone stutter, I was a very young, cocky, thought I knew it all sergeant. In retrospect, I still had a lot to learn. But at the time, I thought I was invincible. And so I was doing a lot of things that, as a drone stutter, can get you in trouble. And because of that, my career was kind of stumbling along the way. People were telling me, hey, if you're not careful, you're not going to be able to stay in the Marine Corps. Now, at the time, like I said, I was a sergeant. When I first started, I was around 23, 24 years old as a drone stutter. I had a wife. I had a brand new son that had just been born. So I had a lot of responsibilities between family and maintaining my career and to myself. So it was a stressful time for me to consider getting out of the Marine Corps. I wasn't going to college at the moment because as a drone stutter, you don't really have time for college. So it was stressful. And for about a year and a half, I was going through this personal experience of trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do if I get out of the Marine Corps? Again, fast forward a few more years after that, I made it to the drill field successfully. I make it to my next duty station, and now I'm going through a divorce. I finished my degree, got accepted to become an officer. I'm going through the training to be an officer, but I'm going through a divorce. So now I'm at a different crossroads where, okay, now I've been in the Marine Corps for 12 years. 12 years as enlisted, switching to be an officer. But now my soon-to-be ex-wife and my son are going to be living somewhere else. Also, I had orders to go to Japan actually at the time it was for 3 years, to go to Japan for 3 years. So in my head, I'm thinking I'm going to be in another continent, far away from my son, for 3 years. I wasn't sure that I could do it, so I started considering options. I started talking to people about joining the reserves, switching my contract to reserves, started talking to people about getting out of the Marine Corps. I started exploring options outside of the Marine Corps as far as going back to school, for grad school, career, all sorts of stuff, just so I could try and make a decision. I talked to my son about it, and he was very small at the time. He was only 9 years old at the time. But I talked to him about it, talked to a couple family members. It was a big decision point for me. So that was around 12, 13-year mark, going through that kind of process. Fast forward, again, many years later, and I hit 20 years in the Marine Corps. Now, for most people, well, first of all, most people don't hit 20 years in the military. Most people join the military, they do 4, maybe 7, 8 years, get out, and go do other things. Those of us that stay in the military to retirement, the majority retire at 20. So when I hit 20 years, or actually when I was coming up on 20 years, again, I was feeling that pressure. Stay in, get out. I had family, friends telling me, hey, you should get out, come back, live close to us. Mind you, I've got family all over the world. I've got family in Colombia, family in Arizona, Texas, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Florida. We're spread out everywhere. But I have family pulling me in all sorts of directions, from my family, from my wife's family, everywhere, trying to encourage me to leave the military. So again, it was a big decision point for me. And there was a lot of outside external pressures kind of pushing me in the direction of getting out. So now that's kind of the context of how my career has not really evolved, but decision points throughout my career, throughout 22 years of where I've had to make a conscious decision. Am I staying in or am I getting out? Now, what I'd like to do is give you a couple tips or pointers or maybe just some things to think about as you make a decision for yourself. Because this isn't just about making a career change in the military. This is how to make a career change in general, okay? So these are things that have helped me out. Maybe they'll help you out as well. So first things first, if you're single, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But if you have a significant other and if you have children, you should definitely talk to them. Now, obviously, if your children are 2, 3, 4 years old, not much of a conversation to have, right? But if your children are older, say 9, 10, definitely if they're young teenagers, talk to them. They're part of the family. This is going to affect them just as much as well, especially if you're in a career like mine where you're having to move with your career, where you have to change states, maybe change countries. But even if you don't have to change states or countries, career changes may come with financial setbacks, may come with time commitments if you've got to go back to school for some sort of training or job training. So there's going to be changes that are going to affect your family, and it's important that you all align your goals so that everybody's happy. When you're having these discussions, what you need to do, or what I encourage you to do, is define and imagine for yourselves what you want your future to be. What I mean is, do you imagine yourself vacationing throughout the world for the next however many years you've got left? Do you imagine yourself starting a business? Do you imagine yourself following your grandchildren around? What is it that you see in your future? You, your spouse, your significant other, if you're not married, your children. What is it that you all want? How do you find that happy medium so that everybody gets what they want? And how can you influence or decide what to do with your career so that it all comes together? The other thing is you got to give yourself options, all right? Now, I gave you a little bit of context of my career as I went through it. And as I look back on it, one of the things that I think I did well is I gave myself options. One of those first things was starting college as soon as I joined the Marine Corps. Now, it took me a long time to finish college. Joined the Marine Corps in 2000. I graduated college in 2010, so 10 years. But I had deployments that took me out of the country. I was a drone stutter for almost 4 years, during which time I had no time to do college. So there was a lot of breaks in between, but I would do college whenever I could and eventually finish college. But the fact that I was doing college, I feel gave me at least a little bit of a leg up on maybe people who don't do college. Now, college is not for everybody. I'm not saying if you don't do college, you don't have options. What I am saying is it gives you more options if you do college. So I gave myself options by doing that. Another thing that I did to give myself options, and especially now in my current job, is I volunteered. I've always volunteered, but here in my current job, I started being a little bit more proactive, a little bit more intentional with the kind of things that I was volunteering with. I'll give you some examples. As I was in this current job and I was thinking about, am I going to get out of the Marine Corps at the end of this tour? This tour ends this summer, which again, I'm at 22 years now. So as I was thinking about that, what are things that I would enjoy doing that I would like to do outside of the Marine Corps? So I started volunteering as a financial mentor on campus here at the university. I started volunteering with the Leadership Center on campus. As a Marine Corps leader, leadership is something that I've learned, something that I practice, and I enjoy having discussions about that with students at the university. What else did I do? I mentor first generation students here on campus. So I do a lot of things that not only give me satisfaction because of the volunteer service that I provide, but they also give me a little bit of exposure to things that I could do, whether as a as a business if I wanted to start a business, maybe working on at a university or at a school or community center. So it gives me ideas, gives me access to career options outside of the Marine Corps. Another thing that I've done is job training. So working with Habitat for Humanity. It's volunteer, but it's also job training because I do enjoy that side of things. One of the things I've talked about in other videos is real estate investing. So if you want to be a real estate investor, it helps to know a little bit about home construction. Another thing that I've done is side hustles. So when I say side hustles, I don't necessarily mean something that's got to make you a lot of money. But I've done a couple things here and there where I make $100 for this, $200 for that. In my previous duty station, when I was in California, I had a part-time job teaching. Now, it was a super easy job. I taught 3 hours a week. The prep work for it was maybe 2 hours a week. So really in all, I was working 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month. And I was making, after taxes, it was a little over $600. Not money that's going to completely change my life, but it was something that A, I enjoyed the job. 2, gave me an opportunity to practice something that I thought would be interesting. And 3, extra money. Something that gives me a little bit more freedom to do other things. Now, when I came here for my current job, I'm working as an instructor at a university, military instructor at a university. I started a master's program. My master's program was in education. And the reason that I felt comfortable taking a master's in education is because I had just spent 2 years working as a part-time instructor, teacher in California. So these things kind of aligned, again, giving myself more options. Another thing that I've done over the years is network, reach out to people in other industries. LinkedIn is huge for that. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. It is, in my opinion, a very professional social media site, I guess you could call it, where you can talk to people in different industries, connect with people that you might be interested in learning more about. And really, it's also a way that employers look for people that might suit their needs. So network, talk to people, find out what's the job like, and don't talk, well, I was going to say don't talk to brand new people, but maybe it helps to talk to both. Talk to people brand new to the industry, talk to people who've been in the industry for a long time, and try to get information from as many people as you can. When you do that too, also try to find people that are similar to you, because you don't want to get advice from somebody whose life goals, interests, personality are totally different from yours, because they may not align with what it is you're trying to do. But in any case, you need to talk to people. You got to build a network. You got to build those bridges that are going to try to get you to that next step. One last thing that for me has been huge, has really helped me just hammer down why it is that I do what I do, is financial independence. Now, I haven't talked too much about it in a couple other videos, but financial independence is something near and dear to my heart. I talk about it a lot with my students here on campus. I talk to Marines about it a lot. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. When I say financial independence, here's what I'm saying. Get into a point in your life where you don't need a job to continue the life you want. Now, there's different levels of financial independence. I'll make another video and I'll talk about the different levels of financial independence. But the ideal goal is whatever investments, retirement pensions, Social Security benefits, whatever you've got makes you enough money that if you stop working today, you would never have to work again for the rest of your life. Now, a career in the military, real estate investments, stock portfolio, IRA, all those sorts of things have helped me get to a point now where if I stop working today, I never have to work again for the rest of my life. However, I will caveat that by saying I don't have a very expensive life. Annual expenses for me and my family hover anywhere between $60,000 and $80,000. Now, I realize for some people that may be a lot of money, but I should also highlight that we save anywhere between 30 and 40% of our income from the military. So by doing that, I've been able to save a lot of money, invest a lot of money, so that now I can retire from the Marine Corps and get my pension from the military, but I've also got money coming in from other assets, other investments. When I combine those two, I'm basically making just as much as if I stayed in the military. Now, by doing that, I don't have to stay in the military for a paycheck. this is something that I find very unfortunate. Is I've met so many Marines who stay in the military, not because they want to continue to serve, not because they have a passion for being in the military and protecting the nation and all these things we espouse, but because they need the paycheck, they need the health care. Maybe they're a young sergeant or staff sergeant with 3 kids whose spouse doesn't work, and they're afraid that if they get out of the military, they're not going to be able to afford to support their family. Because the military, in my opinion, gives you a pretty good standard of living if you stick around long enough and reach certain ranks, especially from E6 and above. You're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year like you might in other industries, but you make pretty decent income. But if you don't manage your finances enough to where you can reach financial independence, you're always going to feel like you're tied to that career, like you're tied to that job. Making a career change is extremely difficult if financial obligations keep you tied to that job. You become a slave to your paycheck. And you can't make a career change if you're a slave to your paycheck. So that's why I spent a little bit more time talking about financial independence, because I really want to hammer the point home that you can't face life with courage if you're tied to an employer, especially if it's an employer that you don't like. All right, guys, give you a couple tips. I can give you a whole lot more, but for now, I'm going to wrap it up there. Hopefully this helps you out. As much as I made this video for you all, I also made it for me. And really, I made it for my family and friends who in the last couple of years have been asking me a lot, hey, when are you getting out of the Marine Corps? When are you getting out of the Marine Corps? And it's hard to explain to them, why it is that I'm still here. Yes, I would love to be around family. Yes, I would love, or more. Yes, I would love to be able to live close to somebody so I don't have to fly and travel all the time, or make them have to travel and fly to come see me. There's a lot of things that I would want to do, but I still love being in the Marine Corps. My wife is still supportive of me being in the Marine Corps. I'm supportive of what she's doing with her career. Our 2 teenage kids are still supportive of me being in the Marine Corps. So everything that matters to me, that matters to my wife, that matters to my kids, is still being done by being in the Marine Corps. When we think about the future, my career supports that future. So as hard as it is to make this decision, this is still the right decision for me. It's the right decision for me. It's the right decision for my wife. It's the right decision for our kids. It's the right decision for our family. And I still love being a Marine. As long as that continues to be true, as long as I continue to enjoy what I do, I'm going to continue to stay in the Marine Corps, especially if my wife and kids are supportive of that. Now, hopefully, the rest of my family and friends are able to support it, and so far they do. But that's also another thing to consider. You don't want to alienate your family or your friends and everybody because of the decisions you make, right? But at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to live with the decisions that you make. You and your immediate family are the ones that got to live with the decisions that you make. All right, guys. Like I said, just a couple tips. Hopefully it helps you out. Hopefully it kind of gets you thinking about some of the things that you should consider or that are important when you're making this career decision. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more, subscribe so you can get notified when I upload another video. Otherwise, see you in the next one. Deuces.